let's be honest here. In high school coming up, there was definitely a lot of talks from both sides, boys and girls, of how hot these teachers are, how cute these teachers are. Oh, if they ever gave me the chance. And we go from there. But obviously, in this case, and in most of the cases, it is absolutely wrong. It's absolutely disgusting. And these people are predators. These people are predators. I'm just making sure you guys know. No matter how cute this woman looks, no matter how handsome that man is, they are predators. Let's review these predators. Let's review. Let's continue.
Yet another teacher is arrested for an alleged sexual relationship with a student. It's just one of many cases we've covered in recent weeks, highlighting a disturbing pattern emerging across the nation. This time, we're headed to Charlotte, North Carolina, where 26-year-old biology teacher Gabriella Neufeld is accused of having sex with an 18-year-old student.
Let's stop it there. Let's take a good look at this woman. Okay? Nice smile, nice teeth. She's glowing. Nice hair, curly hair. You know, this is your typical light skin. This is your typical light skin. You know, she's not doing too much. She's not doing too least. But of course, if I if you a guy in high school, you're definitely feeling this teacher.
These accusations all came to light on Wednesday. According to court docs, Neufeld engaged in intercourse or a sexual act at least 5 times since October 18th. While the interactions didn't happen at school, they allegedly happened with an 18-year-old male student. After an interview with police, Neufeld was arrested and booked into the Mecklenburg County Detention Center. She was later released on $75,000 bond.
Okay, let's go over a couple things here, right? The kid was 18. The kid was 18. So technically he is an adult. Technically they both are adults. And I'm pretty sure it was probably consensual. But definitely it was against the rules of the school. Regardless of what age they were, there's rules. And the rules were broken. And she was locked up because of it. Now she had to pay 75. Let me make sure I got my numbers right. Let me make sure.
At school, they allegedly happened with an 18-year-old male student. After an interview with police, Neufeld was arrested and booked into the Mecklenburg County Detention Center. She was later released on $75,000 bond.
$75,000 bond. That's how much she had to pay to get out. Now, I would love to ask this teacher if it was worth it. I would love to know her thoughts today. Look at this. This is sad. Let's continue.
This power dynamic is one we've covered extensively at Law and Crime Network, as handfuls of similar cases have made the headlines since the start of the school year.
Look at this woman. Look at this woman. What are you out here doing, you cougars, sleeping with children? Y'all pedophiles and predators need to stop.
But experts like forensic psychologist Dr. John Delatorre say this shocking pattern has existed for years.
in the 90s, 80s, and 70s, early on. All of these things were happening. These things have been happening since there was a teacher and there was a student, right? So from the beginning of time, abuses like this have been occurring, but the technology wasn't there to engage in these kinds of things. And so current, like in contemporary times, having an online relationship and having an offline relationship are almost the same thing. And so you can engage in these kinds of sex acts, sexual texts, videos, images being sent to one another.
He says the inappropriate relationships start normally with a student teacher dynamic. It's
Wholesome looking woman, very pretty woman, but not that smart, clearly. I mean, you got your degree in biology, but did you get your degree in common sense? Come on, man. Why would you throw away your career like that? Why would you throw away your opportunities like that? When you know you can probably get some simp to do whatever he wants, whatever you want him to do for you. Respectfully, there's some guy out there that will probably worship her feet, and you know she don't even have to do anything. Probably she could just be her, but instead she decides she wants to sleep with one of her kids, one of her students that she's supposed to be teaching.
a gradual shift into something much darker.
It is a pretty big jump, and it's a jump that actually happens over time, right? It's not one single jump. It's one little tiny little hop from one step to the next. Now, remember, some individuals actually do get sexual gratification from engaging in this behavior. So part of the thought process is also coupled with a physical gratification that the person is receiving from engaging in this behavior. It's also psychological in that they're getting attention from the victim. So there's a lot of dynamics that are at play when it comes to convincing the person that what they are
Very, very pretty girl, man. Very, very pretty girl. And of course, she had probably all the kids hitting on her. All the students was hitting on her. All the kids, all the boys was like, I gotta get Miss Gabrielle. That's a fact.
doing is the right thing. They always know that it's wrong. They've always known and they always will know that the behavior is wrong. They just don't care anymore.
And it's that careless nature that we've seen much of in recent months. We've covered the story of Peyton Shires, the 24-year-old.
Look at this one. Look at this one. Look at these predators. Look at these predators.
social worker now accused of having sex with a boy she'd been assigned to counsel. Authorities in Ohio say Shires recorded videos of herself having sex with a boy. Investigators found that
She recorded it too. These are some freaky teachers. These are some freaky teachers. This wasn't going on in my high school. I promise you that.
evidence on the boy's phone, and Shires admitted to the relationship while she was on the phone with his mom. At the same time, police were listening in. She's now charged with unlawful sexual contact with a minor. In the case of Ricky Lynn Laughlin, it's attempted rape that put the
Look at these women. They are not ugly women either. Like, what? What is going on? Why are there so much predators out there like this?
one-time Missouri teacher in the headlines. Investigators say she invited a 16-year-old student to have sex with her while her husband was out of the home. In Pennsylvania, school counselor Kelly Ann Shute was accused of preying on a 14-year-old boy in his bedroom after his parents left the house.
Oh, no,
Investigators say the pair had inappropriate relations several times, including in her SUV and her home. California teacher Michelle Solis is accused of having a sexual relationship with a former student and sending explicit photos. 27-year-old Emily Swinkowski resigned from her teaching job in Missouri after explicit photos she took made the rounds between students. She's also accused of sexual assault, as is Cassidy Krause of Iowa.
They just keeping them coming. They ain't stopping. They got names on top of names on top of names. Like I said, these teachers wasn't in my high school. But I know them thirsty boys would have been all over it. They would have been all over it if they was in my high school for sure.
Who allegedly sent explicit photos and had sexual relations with 3 boys, ages 13 and 14. Then there's the case of Alyssa McCommon, a Tennessee teacher who's allegedly pregnant with her former student's child. Just this week, McCommon's bond was revoked following her second arrest. She faces charges of rape, coercion of a witness, aggravated.
She's like 40. She's definitely 40. Like, how you 40 and you still getting pregnant? You don't look like no 20-year-old for sure. That's crazy to me. Yo, let me know how y'all feel about this in the chat. Let me know.
Stalking and harassment. She was arrested in early September for allegedly raping a boy in her own home. She was released on bond, but arrested again when she allegedly reached out to the victim after her release, saying she was pregnant with his child. At a hearing this week, a judge ruled McCommon will remain in jail as she awaits trial. It's the disturbing nature of these cases that continues to generate interest. So we're taking a closer look now at the most recent one, Gabriella Neufeld. So to make sense of the case so far, we're joined now by long crime legal analyst Julie Rendelman. Julie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so what struck me about this case, and is what separates it from so many of the others like it, is that the student in this one is 18 years old, so a legal adult, but Neufeld was still arrested and charged. Can you explain that?
Sure. So what we've typically been seeing is where a teacher engages in some type of sexual activity with a student that's also underage. This is unique because the student is 18 years old, and so he is of age. However, the law is quite clear in North Carolina. And in this case, the crime is called sexual activity with a student. And what that says is that an individual who is a teacher who is over 4 years, who is 4 years older than their student, which in this case, the victim was 18, and the teacher was, I believe, 26 years of age. The law prohibits any type of sexual activity.
So if she was 22, she would have been clear. If she was 22, she would have been clear, even if she was a teacher. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. But honestly, this whole situation is crazy because these people are supposed to be teaching. They're supposed to be educating. She is supposed to be letting him know which molecules goes with which atom and which micron is which proton connects to this electron. That's what we're supposed to be learning here, Miss Gabrielle.
Between the two.
She now faces 5 counts of felony sexual activity with a student by a teacher, that charge that you just explained. But is that different than rape? Is it less severe?
It is less severe. It's still a felony. They classify it in that state as a G felony. The difference is the amount of time an individual can get if, in fact, they're found guilty. In a case such as this, the defendant is potentially looking at up to 47 months, whereas in the typical cases we would see, you would have an expectation that the potential for imprisonment is much higher.
It sounds like a lot of this case is going to rely on what this 18-year-old student has to say. Would you say that he would need to testify?
What do y'all think he's going to say when he gets up on that stand? He slept with her over 5 times. He's 18 years old. She's a very attractive woman. What do we expect this young boy to say? He knew exactly what he was doing. I could tell you that much. This was not no rape. This was not no rape. And just because she was about 8 years older than him, that's the only reason she got arrested. It's not even because he was a minor. It's not even because he was her student. It's just because they were 8 years apart. This is insane.
You would expect that he will. Now, keep in mind, there might be outcry witnesses, individuals that he told what happened. There might be witnesses. We expect that when an individual is raped, that it's done in a private location, but you never know what the evidence is going to yield. There may be, which we don't know yet, there might be texts, there might be videos, there might be emails that don't require him to necessarily testify. Keep in mind that no matter what his age is, if it's a student and it's a teacher and there is an age difference between at least 4 years, consent is irrelevant to this charge.
What happens if this 18-year-old is not cooperative and he doesn't want to testify at all? I know that you mentioned he doesn't necessarily need to, but do prosecutors need his cooperation to move forward?
She should go free. She should go free. If that 18-year-old boy decides that he's not going to testify because he already clapped 5 times, she should go free.
I think anytime you have a case, particularly where it's involving 2 individuals, it is important for the prosecution to have the victim on board. That doesn't always mean they're always on board. Can the prosecution go forward without that person? Well, they can certainly subpoena them to testify and require them to, or they can potentially see if there's other evidence besides what the victim would have to say that can support any type of charge against the teacher regarding what happened with this student.
Now, from the prosecution over to the defense side, if we're looking at the defendant in this case, Gabriella Neufeld, what could her defense look like? How would she combat these 5 charges?
So it's so early on in the stage, at least from the knowledge.
I know what I would say if I was in her position. I know what I would say. But I'm not going to say it.
We have. So we don't know how strong their case is. We don't know if the victim is cooperating. We don't know if someone else came forward to say what happens and the victim's like, I don't want to be involved. And so from the defense perspective, of course, their best position would be if the victim does not want to cooperate. Their best position would be if there are no texts, there are no emails. And if the texts are potentially innocuous, they might argue that this was just a flirtation and this was nothing more than that and didn't rise to the level of a felony.
Could it be in Neufeld's best interest?
I don't think it could be a felony because it happened over 5 times. At that point, like if it's an issue between the both of them, something should have been said after the first time. This should have been brought up the first time. But the 4th, 5th, 6th time, he's in there. He's in it, she's in it, and they both having a great time. Clearly.
To take a plea deal rather than go to trial with this case?
So, Sarah, it's so early to even think about that. And again, we don't know what the defense knows. And quite frankly, the defense may not know what the prosecution knows right now. So it's so early in the arrest. It's so early in the investigation. Obviously, when someone decides if they're going to take a plea, the reason they take a plea is if they think that what's being offered is better if they were to go to trial and lose. So I think it's going to take a bit of time and really for the defense to see how strong the evidence is. And also if there's any mitigation. Does the defendant have mental health issues? Are there anything that would somehow...
I hate when they say that. Why everything got to be a mental health issue? She is a biology teacher. She went to school. She's a smart woman. This kid is a smart boy. They saw the opportunity and they struck. There's nothing mental about it. They was mentally perfectly fine when they was on her couch. They was mentally perfectly fine when they was in the classroom chilling. But now all of a sudden, she's mentally unstable. No, I'm not having it.
lessen the blow of quite frankly, what many consider quite a horrific crime.
And we're talking about how recently this investigation began. It was just this week that these allegations came to light and that Neufeld had this interview with police. So I'm wondering, as the investigation moves forward, we're not even a week out. Is it possible that investigators will go back and look at her relationship with other students and that others may come forward?
Anytime you have any type of sex crime, whether it be student to teacher or any other scenario, the police are going to be looking not just at the.
You got to do better, Gabrielle. Gabrielle, you had a bright future ahead of you. You had a huge, bright future ahead of you. You got to do better. You got to do better next time. If there even is a next time. Hopefully you recover from this situation. But clearly, it's a sad situation. You know, the funny thing about this whole thing is, right? If this was a guy on the screen, it would be a whole different conversation. It would be a bigger conversation because it's like there's such a double standard when it comes to men versus women in this topic. But that's just my thoughts.
Relationship between those two, but the relationship between the teacher and any other potential students that may raise some red flags. So certainly they're going to want to do that in this case. Look, anytime a teacher has a relationship like this with the student, boundaries have clearly been crossed. And if they're willing to do it once, they potentially are willing to do it multiple times.
In this case, we know that bond was set at $75,000. Do you think that that's an appropriate amount?
Anytime bail or bond is set, the judge has many factors to consider, and one of them is the flight risk of the individual. And so, this is an individual who I believe was part of the community. She's presumed innocent at this stage. And so I don't think it's unusual for an individual who is a member of the community, who has ties to the community, and has no real basis or belief on the part of the judge that they're going to flee, that they're going to set an amount that would guarantee they return to court, but not require them to remain incarcerated.
Julie Rendelman, thank you as always for joining us and bringing us more information about this case.
Thank you, Julie. Man, that's sad. That's sad. But Miss Gabrielle is down bad. She's down 17. She's down 75,000. I hope it was worth it. And I hope he helped you pay some too. Because that's just wrong. That's just wrong. She's down bad right now. But that's a sad situation, man. I believe for sure that if that was a guy on the other end, it'd be a bigger conversation for sure.